Today I funked up by picking up a hitchhiker and then showing up to my own funeral. This happened a few years ago and I was living in Zimbabwe at the time, and I was having a pretty bad day. I was going to see my auntie who lived about 400 kilometers away from me. If you're African you'll understand that this was no small journey. So I got in my car and set off, and about 3 hours into the journey I came across a dude by the side of the road who was going in the same direction, so out of the goodness of my heart I said jump in. We got to talking and he happened to be going to the exact same village as me and he knew my auntie. Half an hour passes and we're making polite chit-chat and reminiscing about old times in Zimbabwe, when all of a sudden he tells me to pull over, so I do. He runs out of the car and starts making retching noises, so I assume he's throwing up. It's dark at this point so I can't really see much, so I go check on him. First mistake. I get out and go to his side expecting him to be there, but he's not. Then I hear someone behind me and before I know it I'm unconscious. So I wake up a couple hours later. I know this because the sun was coming up at this point, without my car, clothes, or wallet. So I'm thinking great. I look around and see I'm on some farmland wearing the guy's clothes. So I start walking in no particular direction and eventually come across a settlement. I explain to them my situation and they tell me that the nearest main road is at least a good half a day's walk from where I am and they don't get many cars coming through this part, but they heard one last night, which might be our thief. I start walking in the direction they point me in and after what felt like forever I come across a road, so I pitch up and start waiting. Now I know most of you are thinking why not call someone. I had no phone with me and I don't have the best memory so I didn't know any numbers that would come in handy. After a couple of hours a car stops and lets me hitch. I let him know the situation and he says we're in the complete opposite direction of my intended destination, but he's willing to drop me close enough to walk the rest of the way, to which I thought great. It takes a good 2 days to get there and he drops me off and I say my goodbyes to my driver. I write down his number so I can repay him later on. At this point I'm starting to recognize my surroundings. I walk for a few miles and as I'm getting closer to my auntie's I can hear a lot of singing and what appears to be a large crowd, which I thought was strange. I'm about 100 feet from the house and I see my son, which again I thought was strange because he was meant to be in school at this time, but instead of running to me and hugging me as he normally does, he runs away screaming to my complete bewilderment. I get to the gate and all of a sudden the large crowd, alerted by my son's scream, has stopped singing and is stood silent. My wife appears and starts to run towards me, hugging and kissing me like I've been gone for months. My auntie appears and immediately faints when she sees me. I still have no clue what's going on at this point and I'm exhausted, so we rush to get my auntie inside and I see my picture on top of a large box that resembles a coffin sitting in the living room. So it turns out that the guy who robbed me and made off with my car, my wallet and all my clothes was in a car crash so bad that they couldn't identify the body, and because the only things they could use to identify him was my wallet, they assumed it was me that had died in the crash. Since there was no body of sorts they could arrange the funeral pretty quickly, and that is what I had stumbled upon. My son still has nightmares to this day and my wife has told me never to pick up a hitchhiker ever again. TLDR got carjacked, robber died, and family thought it was me. They arranged my funeral and I somehow managed to stumble upon my own funeral.